will welcome you on behalf of Blue Ridge Respite, which is a respite program down in Nelson County with two sites, one in Ellisburg and one we just opened in the Heritage Center in the southern part of Nelson County, and we hope to see more of them as the future unfolds. Just a few announcements. I definitely want to thank Norman and Sue Dill. This is Norman, and there's Sue. Energetic inspiration for this program. When they called me with this idea, I said, one, I know I can't say no to either one of them. And then we kind of put our minds together and came up with what we hope will be a good day, well spent by all of them. Also want to thank Rob Persick, am I pronouncing it correct? Okay. He is from Serenity Ridge, a Tibetan retreat center down in Nelson County, and he is doing the recording for us, volunteer today, which is giving this whole day to this event. So thank you, Rob. And yes, I think you probably all saw the tables outside. They're laden with resources. Some may be new to you, but please help yourself to those. I know there's you're saying you have a book out there, is that correct? Yep. And I think his wife will be there. Yes. Yeah, there it is right there. So let's keep going. The title for our panel today is Courage to be Seen. And if I've learned anything in this field, working with people with cognitive impairment, dementia, or whatever, however we might want to reference it, is they really want to be known for who they are and what they can do, and being judged by that rather than by what they have or what they cannot do. And I think, unfortunately, our healthcare system too often takes a look at deficiencies rather than strengths. And we're so fortunate to have two people here today that give voice to people with dementia, because many people with dementia cannot speak for themselves. So my hat's off to these brave two men for your willingness to be here, and I think you'll appreciate their comments, without a doubt. So, we're going to go in the order in which I introduce everybody, but I'm going to introduce all four of you. Please wait for questions until all four have an opportunity to finish. And questions of one another is open too, but you have to wait as well. You got me, Dick? Sure, okay. Oh, okay, yeah. Easy questions for Dick is what we're going to do. Let me start off with my good friend Norman here. Norman, I've known ever since just about the time he opened Rebecca's health food store. He brought healthy food to Charlottesville, and then this little mom and pop operation called Whole Foods moved in on him. But anyway, I've always considered Norman to have the golden touch as a business person. He had Circa, he had an antique business, he had an auction business, and he gave me a lot of business. But Norman was on the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors for 4 years. And in 2020, I was going to say 1920, but you're not that old. In 2020, he was diagnosed with posterior cortical atrophy, which is a very rare form of Alzheimer's. So in addition to that disease affecting his sight, it's also affecting his cognitive capacity. He's performed many meaningful roles in our community, and I know he's going to advocate that there is still a role for him to play. We're fortunate to bring down, and I hope he lets me call him, Sam the Dementia Man. Okay. Sam comes down from Northern Virginia. McLean, is where you are? Okay. I was just introduced to Sam recently watching one of his videos, which I said, we got to get this guy down here. It was a one-man play that he had put on. It was really superb. A little bit of his background, when he left law school just a few years ago, he was on the team of Nader's Raiders, and I think everybody can appreciate what his role was there, I'm certain. Then he went into to the business, it included frequent appearances on national and televised shows that we recognized several of them, but it was in the public affairs business. I think you will say that the advocacy work he does now, both in the theater and as a playwright and as an author of a book, prepared him very well for it, because he's not only a good performer, but he knows how to promote the cause that he believes so dearly in. Then, my friend of 50 years, Dr. Richard Lindsay. Many of you may know Dick, because he's been around here practicing geriatrics since... Yeah, so you were Jefferson's best friend, weren't you? Yeah. Thought so. When I came to Charlottesville in 1981, one of my reasons for coming here was to work with Dick. I had met him at a Southern Gerontological Society meeting, and I said, we can do some good things together. So, I've known Dick for quite a while. We don't have all day to go through all the things he's done. He was one of the initial presidents of the American Geriatric Society. He has been on the Governor's Council on Aging for I can't tell you how many years or how many different governors, so he swings both between Democrats and Republicans. Although he's finally started listening to me, and he's a little bit more to the left now than he was when I first met him.
It doesn't work, it's just this.
It's been 50 years.
And I can't think of anybody who's been a better advocate for producing and providing better health care for people as they age than Dick. He co-founded something called the Lindsay Institute for Innovations in Caregiving. It is now part of Senior Navigator, which is a great information referral service. If you're not familiar with it, it's at the state level. The place to go first to get general information about aging, what resources are out there for people who are older. Next, Liz Boyd. Liz, I met a couple years ago. She is a connoisseur social worker. I'm so impressed with the work she does for the UVA Memory Clinic and enabling people to be able to access services in the community as well as within UVA. We have a caregiver support group down in Nelson County, and everybody couldn't speak with more credit for what Liz has been able to do to enable them to access the resources they require in order to enable their loved ones to be able to stay at home. So she'll be talking about that and the creative juices she has to find ways to help people who are caring for people with dementia as well as the person with dementia. So with that, I'm going to go forward with Norman first, and then we're going to go down the line. And Norman asked me to come up with a question to make sure I didn't get carried away and asking it here. So, what changes have you experienced, Norman, since you were diagnosed with dementia that you think affect you, your relationship with those you care about, and maybe the community as a whole?
Wow, that's a lot. I think that the things that have affected me the most are, of course, relationships with everyone in my life. 5 children, and one of them is kind of, yeah, you're just getting old, don't worry about it, it's no big deal. And somebody else in the family is, very concerned and wants to help and is, close to me. It's difficult to explain to my children sometimes just what's going on. They're adult children, it's not like they're little kids, but 2 of my children were, we adopted early on, I adopted early on, that were abused and neglected and taken away from their parents, and my first wife and I adopted them, and so that I've lived with them for most of, almost all of their lives, but they have a whole different perspective. They grew up very poor, and so I have this family that kind of knows what's going on, but doesn't in some ways, and I feel like that's kind of true for just people in general that I there's a wide variety of people who's just, oh, don't make a big deal out of it kind of thing, and you seem fine to me, and so it's hard for me to have kind of an intimate conversation with them. But this community is so welcoming and supportive in general, and maybe because I was on the board of supervisors too, people, recognize that I'm not stupid, but was in office and all, and, I think I did an okay job there, and, but it's, I kind of have different, vibrations kind of with different people at different times.
Yeah. I know that your children at times come here and give your wife a break. It's very important to give the primary caregiver a break. Your children, you mentioned, you find them to be very supportive and willing to provide you with any kind of assistance you might need and so forth.
Yeah, as much as they can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things that I wanted to make certain we got across here today is that people in your situation can continue to remain very active in the community.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about ways you think you can still do that, Norman?
Well, I think it's in more subtle ways now. I went to a board of supervisors meeting, I don't know, a month or two ago, just for old time's sake kind of thing, just to see what it was like, and I realized, wow, I just couldn't possibly do that anymore with the mental changes that I've had. And at the same time, I can be helpful to some of the stores that are on the downtown mall, and got close to death in Spain, who was here, I think, today.
Here.
Yeah, she's here. She was, I was helpful to her, and she's been very helpful to me, and reciprocal, and, she was the, what was your?
Planning commissioner.
Planning commission, the planning commissioner, and.
Oh, you were pointing at me as when you were on the board.
Right, when I was on the board. So we worked together well then, and then now, being on the downtown mall together, it's been very good.
Yeah. I know you try as much as possible to get over the ACAC and continue to exercise. Is that one of the things you would recommend that
Absolutely, yeah.
people that have dementia, maybe those
Yeah.
things you find helpful to you?
Yeah, I heard that, at some point, when I'm talking to the doctors or whatever, and, to get exercise. Actually, the first person, the doctor that I talked with said that the most important things to do are getting a lot of oxygen in your brain, so walking briskly is important, and the second most important thing is being organized. So, I had started going to the gym. Again, I've gone off and on over the years, but now I go very regularly and walk a lot. That's what he recommended the most, was just walking and breathing heavily, getting a lot of oxygen. So that was a really important thing. But then the other important thing is to still be involved in the community and do what I can. I can't do some of the things I used to be able to do. But one of my problems is I can't read. I have a kind of part of I guess part of dementia, but it's a kind of a